Peggy Burke, and she is the executive director at Books for Development. Tell us a little bit about your charity.
Thank you, Wayne. Books for Development is a nonprofit that we established in Houston, Texas back in 2012. We gather used books from our community, and we use volunteers to come in and sort and rebox these books, and we find locales around the world that are in need of improved literacy. We have found that one of the greatest hindrances to advancement in your own community or society is a lack of literacy. There are so many developing countries around the world that are struggling with literacy. In the United States, we have such an abundance of used books. People come to us and say, what can I do with these books? Where can I put them? Quite a few donations from schools, individuals, all types of outlets in Houston. This year, we shipped our 1 millionth book.
Wow!
10 years, we have gathered, sorted, redistributed 1 million books. It's been a great opportunity for us to recycle, repurpose, and reuse books. When we started the organization, our hope was that we would set up a model that could be replicated around the United States with other organizations. We really appreciate you giving us a spotlight for a few moments to say what we do and encourage other people that if they're interested to contact us about that.
Perfect.
I was intrigued when you told me of the work that you're doing in Guatemala and the need there, that it seems like a good fit for us. As being based in Houston, we get a lot of books in Spanish language from our English as a second language type of schools that have Spanish books, and also just our community. We have a very large Spanish-speaking community. As far as where we send books, which a lot of it is East Africa, English-speaking, have no use for the Spanish books. Having an outlet in Central America is fabulous for us. We have sent 3 containers of books to Belize to be distributed both in the capital and into the far corners.
How many countries are you currently working with now?
We have sent books to 9 different countries.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Guatemala, I believe, would be 10. We are trying to get a shipment to the Philippines, which would be our first Asian country, but because of COVID, we've had restrictions for the last 3 years.
What's the goal?
Our model is that we find a community that really has no access to books. We have traveled to the very far northwest corner of Uganda, was our first area. It's always been neglected, and they had no books. What we did is we went into a small village and tried to find a building that the community elders would lend to us to use as a library. They would provide the building and agreed to provide a librarian, and we agreed to bring in all of the books needed and some training for the librarian. 30, 40 community libraries throughout Uganda that way. As we were doing that, we also discovered that the existing schools didn't have books either, or didn't have small little libraries. It was amazing to see, and the appreciation. The idea that a child, for the first time ever, at 10 or 12 years old, was holding a book, had never held a book before, had seen a book.
I know that seems foreign to a lot of people sitting out there, but it's not. If you watch our Guatemalan series, you'll see that people don't live the way we do in America. And most of the world doesn't have it the way we have it in the first world countries.
Coming from a land of plenty, and especially in Houston, Texas, we have such an abundance of there's books everywhere that it's just so foreign to them. And they were so appreciative of having these books, and it touched my heart. So it grabbed me, and I have been doing it now for 11 years. We established our own private nonprofit.
Do you actually lead groups of people down to the different countries to help distribute the books?
Volunteerism, yes, that's a big part of what we do. Why I've stayed so involved, especially because I love the travel. Yes. Our model is that we have the volunteers sorting, boxing, and getting the books ready for shipment. Then they go on a container ship to their destination. We then schedule volunteers, usually a group of 8 to 10 people, to travel with us. We stay in local accommodations close to where we're setting up the library. So when our volunteers arrive, the boxes are there, and we spend the day, usually 2 days, to establish a library. We use the volunteers then to set up the library. The first day is cleaning the area. A lot of times we deal with very old buildings, and you can imagine the conditions. So we clean up the buildings, we make a rapport with the local community, try to build trust, let them know what we're doing, let them know what we hope the outcome will be. Then we always like to have a celebration, like a grand opening, which will involve, as you know, traveling to third world countries. A lot of dancing. One's presented with a rooster.
Wow, that's very complimentary.
Yes, I was very proud of that rooster until we saw him on the table for dinner. But volunteers will do all of that work of setting up the library. A lot of times we'll have 2 or 3 locations, so that will take us 4 or 5 days to do all the library work. As to make this really an experience for our volunteers is then we add on leisure travel. Whatever country we're in, we will partake of what they like to show the world. And so in East Africa, often it's safaris. What we're able to do, and this will touch your heart, much less expensive than if we were to book a tour company. We self-lead these tours. We have our local people that help us with the libraries, act as our tour guides. Murchison Falls in northern Uganda is one of our favorite places, one of the most beautiful places. and great safari touring. Kenya, we go down to the Masai Mara, all parts of Kenya. Olopajeto is a great preserve in central Kenya. The volunteers get a chance then to not only experience the country from a local standpoint while they're in the villages, working with them, setting up the libraries, but then also some of the natural wonders of each country that we visit. We find that our volunteers are so excited to do that, it really is an enhancement to the whole experience.
They get the best of both worlds. See another country, learn a new culture, and then do something good for a community that desperately needs. I've traveled to enough countries to where I know that a lot of people do need education. A lot of people don't make it past the second, third grade. Got to go and work and feed the family.
We feel like we're adding the education aspect to it, and when we bring the volunteers, we're actually adding dollars to their economy. One of the things we're trying to develop are more grants that we can offer to volunteers that are not able financially, even for that small amount, to travel with us. But we've got students that we're working with that we're trying to make it so that they can participate with us.
Okay.
That's part of our fundraising.
When you're a young student, that's when you're impressionable. It's going to set you up for life.
And like you said, so many people don't really realize how some of these other countries live, and as a young person to see that firsthand will shape, like you said, your future. One of our new things that we really have gotten very popular, in fact, right as we sit, I am working with a gentleman in Kasuro, Uganda, which is down where the mountain gorillas are located. They have the same situation, no library books. We purchase in country these large metallic boxes. They are the size of a small foot locker, really, like you might send your children to camp with. We fill them with books that usually they can hold about 50 books. And those boxes then are circulated to some very remote outposts, as we call them, book boxes, are brightly painted. A lot of times we have custom painting done on them. They can go on the back of a motorcycle and be distributed up into these mountain villages. And so we take the box and leave it there and let the school, the teachers, or the librarian just circulate it among the people.
If any of our audience wants to help, how can they help you?
Part of our mission is to try to have people replicate our model and establish their own organization with their own towns. The easiest way is to contact us at booksfordevelopment.com.
We'll put the link below.
Great. We have a website. We have an email address, of course. We post on Instagram. If you're in the Houston area, we'd love for you to donate books if you're available. If you're not in the Houston area and want to just hear more about what we're doing, we're very receptive. We are an all-volunteer organization. There's no salaries paid. It's just really a labor of love, and we would love to share what we do with anybody who's interested.